Hello and welcome to today's Global Sign webinar, Eliminating the Burden of SSL Management. I'm Dan Farrell with the Global Sign Marketing Team, and I want to thank you for joining us today. I'd like to take a moment to introduce our presenter for today, Doug Beatty. Doug is Global Sign's Vice President of SSL Product Management and has been an active member in the CA Browser Forum and the CA Security Council for the past 3 years. He'll be covering the latest industry SSL best practices, as well as some great tips, tools, and other things that you can use to help solve some of the most common SSL management headaches. We welcome your interactions with us, and while phones are on mute, we do encourage questions. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can submit them using the questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We'll keep track and try to answer them all at the end of the webinar. We'll also be recording today's presentation, and we'll send a link to the recorded webinar in a follow-up email. And now I'll hand it over to Doug.
Thanks, Dan. Well, today we're going to run through some of the biggest pain points when it comes to SSL management, provide some suggestions for how to address them. 4 main topics, as you can see on the slide: ensuring the best visitor experience. We'll discuss how to avoid server configurations that remove the green bar or the green lock, such as enabling old cipher suites. And you want to make sure that your SSL certificate's using the latest signing algorithms and contains the correct extensions to convey the most trust and the best user experience to your visitors. Security for internal servers. We'll provide some strategies for how to secure your internal servers now that you can't receive publicly trusted SSL certificates with reserved IP addresses or internal server names anymore. We'll tracking certificate expirations is also a very important topic we'll discuss, because if they expire, it can put systems and processes out of commission, and you can lose sales from your website. And the last topic is supporting your dynamic and ever-changing server environments. Do you need to secure servers for only a day or a week or a month and wish you didn't buy a 1-year certificate? We'll discuss some licensing options which allow you to return SANs to your license pool dynamically as you issue and cancel and modify certificates. So let's talk about keeping the green lock green. SSL and the padlock have long been touted as security indicators for websites. However, recently we've all been noticing an increase in the use of SSL on phishing websites. These sites typically use DV certificates, which only verify domain ownership and nothing about the organization. It's a growing problem due to the rise of free, validated domain SSL certificates, and there are reports in Netcraft and other sources that point out lists of deceptive SSL certificates that have been issued to fraudsters. So we recommend that if your brand is important to you and you want to convey that to your audience, you should consider EV, or Extended Validation, SSL, which brings your business verified identity front and center right to your users. Clearly displays your company name in the green address bar, as you can see on the bottom of the slide here. OV certificates can also be used to convey identity information, but unfortunately, visitors need to drill down into the certificate details to find this information, since browsers don't currently display this easily within the browsing window. So there are a number of things we need to worry about for preventing SSL warnings and broken padlocks. So as kind of an overview of this section, I wanted to let you know that browsers are constantly updating, locking down their TLS logic to improve security for the internet. And we encourage website operators to follow the latest best practices. Modern browsers have started, and they've been doing so for a while, penalizing sites that don't have their sites secured to the highest level. They'll remove the green address bar or green lock, they'll display yellow caution warnings, even blocking sites completely. So this isn't a good look, and can certainly deter visitors from coming to your website. So let's go through a couple of the most common configuration issues that can cause errors like this. First one is mixed content errors. This means that there is both secured and unsecured content being served up on a page. So any HTTPS page that links to an HTTP resource is considered insecure and is subsequently flagged by your browser as a security risk. There are 2 main types of mixed content errors. The first one is most dangerous, and that involves mixed active content or mixed scripting. And this occurs when an HTTPS site loads a script file over HTTP. This basically takes away the security of your session and undermines the security of the overall page. Web browsers almost universally block this type of mixed content completely, as you can see above in the sample images. The second type of error is passive mixed content or mixed display content. And this occurs when an HTTPS site loads static content like an image or audio file over an HTTP session. This is more commonly encountered, while less of a security issue than mixed active content. It still remains a security issue that you'll want to address as part of your site configurations. How do you find and locate mixed content errors like this? Well, you can search your source page looking for references to a source equal HTTP. And you'll see links probably to images and JavaScript files and video files and so on. So you need to find out what's causing that include or that reference, and then hopefully it's just as easy as changing HTTP to HTTPS, but your content might not be available over HTTPS, so you might have to move it or enable security on the server that it's being served from so you can provide the content securely. Next topic in this section is certificate transparency. So at a high level, this is an open framework that allows for monitoring and auditing of SSL certificate issuance. It's an initiative driven by Google, and it's been ongoing for a number of years. It makes CA certificate issuance open to external, real-time auditing and monitoring, which can be used to detect misissuance. And transparency is achieved by having CAs post certificates to publicly accessible CT logs, of which there are approximately 10 currently and a few others pending review and inclusion into the Google trusted list. Customers can take advantage of these logs by creating log monitors which look for certificates issued to their domains. And when they detect certificates issued by CAs that they didn't authorize or they don't think they requested certificates from, they can take immediate action to react to that and have them revoked. So there are a few goals is listed on the slide here, but technically, really, how is this accomplished? Well, CAs publish pre-certificates, which are basically just the certificate that's about to be issued, to the logs, and they receive a signed proof back that it was published. It's a non-refutable signed entity that proves that the certificate was logged. The CAs include these proofs, they're known as signed certificate timestamps or SCTs, into the issued certificate. Then anybody connecting to the site and looking at the SSL certificate can verify the SCTs just by validating the signature in the SCT and confirming that it's valid for that certificate. So it can happen quickly, efficiently. There's no out-of-band communication to CAs or logs to validate the SCT. It can be done completely in a standalone way, which is quite efficient for browser performance. So what does certificate transparency mean for you? Like what does it affect? Well, Google requires CT for EV certificates today, and in Google Chrome, if the EV SSL certificate doesn't supply the necessary CT information, or the SCTs as we talked about earlier, Chrome won't display the green bar. So it's kind of a minor downgrade, but if you went to the trouble of ordering and receiving an EV certificate, you really count on the green bar being displayed to all of your users. Earlier this year, in May, Google announced plans to expand the CT policy to cover all SSL certificates, including DV and OV. So at the time, they didn't provide any information about how it would degrade the user experience. Obviously, there's no green bar for those types of certificates, but we can be certain that Google will come up with an approach for degrading the user experience. Although it's only Google that's enforcing CT right now, latest stats indicate that approximately 3/4 of users use Chrome. So that's in a number of reference articles. And we can also expect Google to roll out some form of degraded UI within the next couple of years. So it's likely that a 3-year certificate issued today will receive the degraded UI prior to the expiration. So it's important that you receive certificates that comply with CT policies by Google, so that you don't have to rush around and replace them all at the last minute. Kind of like what happened for SHA-2 with the upgrade. All of a sudden, your SHA-1 certificate was receiving a poor user experience, and that's not what you had intended when you first ordered the certificate. So the recommendation is to get your certificates from a CA that supports issuing them with SCTs and complying with the Google CT policy. And we should let you know that DV certificates issued by GlobalSign today are compliant with the Google CT policy as of about a month ago. So we've been including SCTs in all of our DV certificates for the last month, and we plan to do that well into the future to provide the best user experience for our customers. Next topic is the deprecation of SHA-1 and moving to SHA-2. It's probably old news to you, but SHA-1 TLS certificate issuance has been prohibited since January of this year. The hashing algorithm is aging and has some mathematical weaknesses, and browsers have been continuing to degrade the user experience as we get closer and closer to the end of this year. Starting in January 2017, browsers will start rolling out updates that prevent users from accessing sites that are secured with a SHA-1 TLS certificate. So this doesn't apply to certificates issued under non-publicly trusted routes. It's just the routes that are embedded in the key stores. So if you have a private hierarchy using internally, you may continue to use that without this level of warning. So the recommendation is to upgrade all your certificates as quickly and efficiently as possible to SHA-256, so you receive the best treatment and you don't run into issues at the end of the year. Well, how are you going to find any remaining SHA-1 certificates? Hopefully most have been upgraded already, because this has been going on now for 9 or more months. There are a couple of tools that we recommend you use. One is the SSL server check. If you want to check individual certificates and the certificates that are on them, you can go to that site and check them individually. And also we have a certificate inventory tool, CIT. It's more flexible and comprehensive. It allows you to scan domains and IP address ranges, looking for certificates, collecting them, and putting them into the database. It'll record all discovered certificates regardless of the CA. That can be self-signed even, and you can find them obviously on external networks, but also you can install an agent on an internal network and scan your internal network segments looking for certificates that are not publicly accessible. And based on the collection of certificates, you can run reports. It'll send out notification emails and so on. So you can plan ahead to make sure those certificates are upgraded to SHA-256. Next topic here, and the final one in this section, is the importance of server configuration in order to maintain the best user experience for your visitors. Many of the SSL vulnerabilities you've heard about in the recent years, like Beast and Poodle, so on, are the results of weaknesses in server configuration, not in certificates themselves. So this goes back to the concept that it's not enough to just have a good certificate, but you also need to look at your web server configurations and keep up with the best practices for your server as well. The best practices are continually changing, and the browsers keep degrading the user experience as they find old settings on your server. So some of the current recommendations are to enable TLS 1.1 and 1.2, of course, TLS 1.0 if necessary, but it is susceptible to some vulnerabilities. And certainly TLS 1.3, when that starts rolling out in a little while, that'll be a good one to roll out, because that enforces the selection of cipher suites to only be the best and most secure cipher suite algorithms. And of course you want to disable SSL2 and SSL3. That's been a recommendation for quite a while. Some other things you might want to consider, things like OCSP stapling. Most web servers support OCSP stapling, and it enables the server to provide the OCSP response to the browser within the TLS negotiation session, so they don't have to go retrieve it from a CA's OCSP responder. This speeds up the TLS negotiation and can help with site performance. The CA Security Council has been actively encouraging major website vendors to ship their web servers with OCSP stapling turned on by default. Since a lot of people just install the web server out of the box, they don't think to enable this, and it really is a good feature to turn on. So how can you keep up with some of these changes in the industry? Well, certainly news groups and things like that are good to track. You can use our free server check, which is constantly upgraded to reflect the latest best practices, and will point out things that browsers may or may not be representing in their UI. It'll include information about how to fix some of the issues, so it's also an informative site in that way. And lastly, you want to make sure you keep your system patched. Operating system, the web server, OpenSSL, which has been the source of many of the security vulnerabilities in the past few years. So you want to, while this doesn't affect the browser rendering of the pages, it is certainly a security vulnerability you'll want to avoid going forward. Next topic is let's look at some options for securing the servers that sit inside your internal networks. So securing internal servers, meaning not the public-facing and not reachable from the general internet, is also a critical part of enterprise security. Even internal systems need to have TLS so people can't snoop traffic and see what's going on, HR systems and finance systems and so on. It's not uncommon for these internal servers to use names that are only valid within the context of their local network, things like finance.local or just mail. And we refer to these as internal server names. As of November 1st of 2015, about a year ago now, the CA Browser Forum no longer permits local names and publicly trusted certificates. This is done for a couple of really good reasons. First, local names aren't unique, so there's no way for CA to verify ownership or control of those, quote, domains or server names. And second, they can be potentially misused. For example, anyone could obtain a certificate for mail and bring it to a different corporate network and impersonate the mail system or perform a man-in-the-middle attack. Same goes even more strongly for Wi-Fi hotspots that you may know are the source of a lot of security potential issues and man-in-the-middle attacks. As of October 1st, which is only a couple of days away now, all existing certificates with internal server names or reserved IP addresses will be revoked. This is mandated also by the CAB forum requirements. So what are some options now? You have internal server names and you need to use them internally. So what are some of the ways you can secure these web servers? Well, you can migrate to registered domain names. This is a good option and allows you to continue getting certificates from your preferred trusted CA provider. If you want to more clearly separate internal from external servers, you could consider registering a new domain. So if you had a domain example.com, you might want to register a domain example-internal.com or something like that that clearly indicates this domain is to be used internally within your company. You can set up internal DNS servers instead of external ones and just use this whole domain internally within your own network. Next option is setting up and running your own enterprise CA. However, this comes with the cost of procuring and configuring and running your OCA and your own CA and OCSP services. You'll need to support users that encounter errors, support the daily management activities associated with adding and removing users, setting permissions, and so on. Third option is you can use self-signed certificates. All web servers out of the box want to generate you a self-signed certificate to get things going. And that's really only good for very limited, small environments where you maybe have one user, testing against a test server. It teaches users to ignore, ignore important browser warnings, which can lead to security issues if they accept self-signed certificates outside the company. And the final option here is you can obtain SSL certificates under non-public routes from your trusted CA provider. This is a good option if you want to continue using local server names, and you don't want to run your own CA, rely on self-signed certificates. You get all the benefits of a hosted CA solution, keep your certificates together, your public and your internal ones, and services like this can support algorithms and key sizes which have been deprecated by the public requirements. They can have longer validity periods and algorithms, for example, if you had some legacy systems that needed SHA-1 certificates, you could get them from a product line like this to use until you can get them upgraded. So GlobalSigns created and launched a year ago the Internet SSL product line to support customer requirements for internal server names, extended algorithm support, and longer validity periods. So you should check that out on our website when you have a chance. Let's talk about how to avoid unexpected certificate expirations and tracking renewal dates for your certificates. If you're not using APIs or other automated certificate provisioning systems, the TLS certificate's not going to renew themselves, right? They're a static thing, and they need to be needs to be an active process here to get a new one. So what happens when a certificate expires? Well, users will be presented with a rather harsh warning from their browsers, and certainly this will result in lost sales or people abandoning the site at that point, thinking that something is seriously wrong, which of course there is. If a certificate's on an internal system within your company and the servers connecting to it and processing messages back and forth validate the certificate expiration date, which they should, can result in system outages. And it's not always easy to find out why internal systems are failing to communicate. A lot of potential reasons, network outages or DNS settings or so on. So debugging that down to an expired certificate can be time-consuming and easily prevented. There are a couple of tools we wanted to point out here for helping you avoid unexpected expirations. First, you don't want to rely on manual methods using Excel files if you have more than 50 or 100 certificates. Gartner has made this recommendation in the past, and we fully agree that spreadsheets are prone to error, loss, misuse, and not being kept up to date. One way to manage your certificates is within a complete managed PKI service where you centralize all of your certificate activity. The services generally send out renewal notices when certificates are getting ready to expire. They provide renewal reports where you can view a list of upcoming certificates that are going to expire. And in some cases, you can sync up validity periods when ordering your certificates, so expirations may be lined up at a certain time of year. We can dedicate more people to that, or it's not critical. For example, you don't want certificates expiring during the holiday season because your systems are locked down. You're probably not allowed to get certificates. So you should really try to align your validity periods to a different time. Managed PKA services are great if you know all your certificates are from one CA, but what about certificates that are from multiple geographically separated business units, or IT managers off doing their own thing, or you have acquired some companies and you don't have any insight into that network, or you need to consider, and you also need to consider those rogue development departments going off and doing whatever they want to do. So there's no centralized view or dashboard for the entire company, so the CIO is really blind in this model. Sure, they can see all the certificates issued from the one CA and the one account at that CA, but nothing else beyond that. So we recommend the use of an inventory tool. As we mentioned earlier, we have a free tool, CIT, that will scan your networks and find all of the TLS certificates regardless of certificate issuer. They can be self-signed, from another CA, from a private CA. It'll find certificates both internal and external accessible networks. So this will let you, you can install an agent on your internal network segments and plug in an IP address range, and it will scan all the certificates and load them into this portal where you can run reports. It makes it easy to list what certificates are coming up for expiration soon, and you can consolidate your inventory down to one CA so you can manage it more locally as well. So the last topic today is how to support your servers that you're constantly changing. You're adding them, you're removing them, you're reconfiguring, you're setting up new FQDNs, you're taking them down. So let's look at a couple of ways to address how we can support that. First is issuance speed. You'll want to make sure that you need self-service, fully automated vetting, and you're not reliant on any CA internal or manual processes. You have to respond to new requests quickly and efficiently, and you can't wait for traditional vetting methods to approve this cert and get it back in an hour or a day. You'll want to take advantage of APIs and other automation technologies for issuing certificates to these servers that come online quickly and kind of without a lot of heads up. This will eliminate the manual requesting and ordering steps and save you a lot of time in setting up the servers. And you want to look for high-volume CA platforms that can handle hundreds or thousands of certificates per second for the platform to make sure you get the response time and the issuance rates you need to support setting up your servers. If you operate in an environment where you're constantly adding and removing servers, maybe there are trial accounts you set up for customers when they sign up. You need to activate a new subdomain for 30 days. Do you want to buy a one-year certificate for that and worry about manual processes to issue it? No. So you'll need a cost-effective way to set up a lot of domains quickly and efficiently with the ability to reuse certificates issued to prior servers that you don't need any longer. A per SAN or per server FQDN license allows up to a specified number of unique SANs in your active certificates across your whole account. So if you change a certificate to add or remove a SAN, or you cancel an order anytime during the life of that order, the SANs are put back into your inventory and your license count so you can reuse them for new servers that you need to provision. And short-lived certificates is another good topic to address here, where it's good security practice to change your keys on a regular basis, normally annually, but if you want to limit your exposure any further, you can replace your certificates and underline keys more frequently. So you should look for CAs that can provide a flexible per seat or per FQDN licensing model versus charging by the certificate. And we have some options there in our managed SSL platform. So in summary here, let's wrap things up and say, you should select a CA that will provide a full suite of the PKI products you need for TLS, secure mail, code signing, document signing, and so on. CA should provide TLS certificates which enable the best user experience for your website visitors, meaning EV certificates that are compliant with the Google CT policy, and so on, so they receive the best experience from all of the browsers. You want a CA to provide you with the right tools and services you need to avoid unexpected certificate expirations. And you should look for a CA that can provide you with cost-effective licensing options, which allows you to change your servers, swap in SANs, swap out SANs, without needing to purchase certificates for every site, even those that are needed to secure certificates for just a short period of time. So that's all I had today. Dan, are there any questions that came in?
Yeah, definitely. Give me 1 second. All right, so the first question that we have is, what is the difference between SSL and TLS?
Oh, that's a good question. You probably saw some mixed references in here to TLS sometimes and SSL other times. SSL, or Secure Sockets Layer, is the name of the protocol that was first developed and used for HTTPS, but as you can tell in the presentation, over time, the SSL protocol has been deprecated and has been found to be insecure with the latest attacks. So TLS, which is Transport Layer Security, is a very similar protocol, and it's improved security, and each version of that, 1.0 up through 1.3, which is coming out, adds a lot more security and features to the protocol. So in general, we're trying to move our terminology from SSL to TLS, but we know that SSL is a term that is going to live for a long time. People just think SSL certificates, and we're trying to promote the use of TLS in our documentation and guides as well.
Okay. Our second question is, what's the latest on ECC, and should I be using it?
So the elliptic curve cryptography is similar to the RSA keys typically found in SSL certificates. And it's shorter, so it's a little smaller of a certificate, and it also is a little easier on the performance of the servers and the clients when establishing TLS sessions. Now, there's quite a bit of interest in the last year or two, but recently we've seen less of a demand for this. I've been poking around a little bit looking at sites, and Google used to serve up elliptic curve certificates on their websites if you had a modern browser that supported it. But I haven't seen that in quite a while, so they seem to have moved away a little bit. I think, as we go from RSA to the next generation of algorithms, we'll probably, eventually be headed to algorithms that are more resistant to quantum computing over the next, 5 to 10 years, I would imagine. So elliptic curve might, will definitely fill a niche role in that time frame, but eventually we'll probably just move on to a new suite of algorithms.
Okay. And another question we have is, are there any other browsers that are going to enforce CT?
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion, especially, Mozilla. I could envision Mozilla and the Firefox browser probably following Google's lead at some point and improving the browser representation of sites, EV or others, for those who comply with CT. Microsoft uses a reputation engine to establish trust, so I don't see them moving to using CT at any point in time. And Apple just seems to follow along and see what other browsers are doing, and then when poked and prodded hard enough, they'll take it up as well. But CT has been an important tool, especially recently with some of the misissuance and some CAs doing sneaky things with issuing SHA-1 certificates. So it's very beneficial that CAs are supporting CT, and also Google and others, when they find certificates, they publish them to CT log. So while they weren't published as part of issuance, they are published as part of browsing and website spiders that go out and find them. So it's very useful, and we'll see what Mozilla comes up with in the future.
All right, and that's all the time that we have for today. If we didn't get to your question, we'll be in contact with you directly. We hope this information has helped you learn about the latest industry best practices, tips, and tools for using SSL to meet your business needs. Thank you for attending the webinar, and have a great day.